There's a kind of silence that only comes with retirement. It's not like the quiet you hear in the early morning or late at night. No, it's heavier, like the air just doesn't care to move anymore. Some guys hate it. They chase golf courses or fishing boats or the first RV that'll get them out of town. Me? I didn't mind it. I earned that silence after 32 years in the Air Force, most of it working on birds that never flew right the first time. But lately, the silence around here felt different. It started with Boone, our Labrador mix. 14 years old, grayer than me now, half deaf, and still loyal to a fault. That dog's never caused a problem in his life. So when he stopped going into our bedroom, I paid attention. The first time, I didn't think much of it. Boone was lying in the hallway one morning, head between his paws, tail thumping once or twice when he saw me. I called him in like I always do. "Come on, boy. Up." He just blinked at me. Didn't move. I called again. Even tapped my leg. Still nothing. Only when I walked out of the doorway did he finally get up, but he walked around the bedroom door like the threshold was hot lava. No eye contact. No sniffing around. Just circled wide and laid back down near the stairs. I chalked it up to old joints or maybe the smell of my aftershave. But then it happened again. And again. By the end of the week, he wouldn't even look at the bedroom door. Now, I'm no psychic. I don't jump at shadows. But I know patterns. Trained my entire life to spot tiny shifts in systems and behavior. And this was a shift. Boone wasn't scared of anything, except thunderstorms and vacuum cleaners. So I started paying more attention. Not to the dog. To her. Linda and I had been married 27 years. Long enough to stop finishing each other's sentences and start repeating the same stories at barbecues without realizing it. We weren't miserable, just quiet, comfortable. She taught elementary school until last spring, then announced she wanted a break, some time to herself. I respected that. She earned it too. The first month was fine. She painted the guest room, took up gardening, joined a book club. Then she started going out more. First just on Saturdays, then Saturdays and Sundays. Always in the afternoons. Always alone. Always dressed just a little nicer than before. I didn't question it. Not really. Just noted it in the back of my mind like a technician marking a fuse that flickers once a week. Then there were the sheets. Call me old-fashioned, but I know how our bedroom smells. It's a mix of lavender detergent, a little bit of dog hair, and Linda's lotion. But a couple of weekends in a row, I came in to find something different. Not just cleaner. Different. Like the room had been aired out too much. Or someone else had been there. Someone who didn't belong in the smell of our life. It wasn't cologne, not exactly. Just a sharp, sterile scent. Like hotel soap. I mentioned it once, offhandedly. Linda smiled. "Oh, I just switched detergents. Figured it was time for something new." Seemed fair. Until I checked the laundry room later and saw the same bottle of lavender detergent we'd used for years. Unopened. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I started noticing more. Like how she'd leave the window open in the bedroom, even on colder mornings. Like how the shower had fresh water spots midday, when she claimed she hadn't showered since last night. Like how she started turning the dog out into the yard when she went upstairs alone. That's when the gut feeling really settled in. That old, sharp ping, the kind that tells you something in the system ain't right. The final clue hit me on a Tuesday. She was out grocery shopping. I decided to do a little repainting in the master bathroom. The ceiling was starting to peel around the vent. I moved the towels, the rugs, the small stuff. Then, when I was cleaning around the toilet tank, I noticed the lid was slightly off kilter. Lifted it, and there it was. A black travel-sized shaving kit. Leather. Expensive looking. Tucked behind the tank like it had something to hide. I opened it. Inside, a small bottle of aftershave I'd never seen before, a razor, and a single-use toothbrush still in its wrapper. No name. No receipt. But it didn't belong to me. And it damn sure didn't belong in my house. I didn't say anything that night. Didn't confront her. Didn't throw it in the trash or toss it in her lap. No, I put it back. Exactly where I found it. And started planning. Because whatever this was, whoever this man was, I wasn't going to let it pass by like a quiet breeze. She wanted to invite someone into our home. She wanted to play dress-up on weekends. Fine. But I'd show her what it felt like to stand in front of a crowd and realize your whole game had been watched the entire time. We had an anniversary coming up. 28 years. Linda had already planned a small party. Backyard, a few close friends, some finger food, and old photo albums. I told her I'd handle the surprise. She smiled like I was the sweet old dog she thought I still was. But old dogs don't forget. Especially not when something's growling in the closet. After I found the shaving kit, the whole house started feeling smaller. It's strange how something that's always been yours can suddenly feel like it belongs to someone else. Like there are fingerprints you can't see, but still feel. Even Boone seemed more anxious, more restless. He'd pace from the living room to the back door and back again, pausing at the base of the stairs with a low, uncertain growl. I didn't say a word to Linda. That wasn't the plan. I'm not the shouting type. Never have been. Raised in a military family, trained in the Air Force, I learned early. If you see a leak, you trace it before you plug it. You don't start yanking wires without knowing what's hot. So I started watching. And logging. She left every Saturday at 1:30 sharp. No variation. Always said she was meeting Gail for lunch or going by the craft store. Harmless errands. Believable. But she never brought back any bags. Never had leftovers. I followed her one time. Careful, far back in my old Dodge Dakota, keeping 2 cars between us. I watched her pull into a neighborhood about 3 miles away. She parked in front of a white ranch house with stone trim. The porch had one of those tacky garden gnomes holding a fishing pole. She didn't even knock. Just walked right in. Stayed 2 hours. Then came back with nothing but a lie and a smile. I didn't recognize the house, but I remembered the street. Willow Drive. I went back the next day, parked 2 blocks over, and walked Boone until I got close enough to see the mailbox. M. Lowell. The name didn't ring a bell. I checked around online later that night. The homeowner was Michael Lowell, divorce attorney. Had a practice in the business strip near the old dry cleaners. Suddenly the pieces started snapping together. Linda had talked about getting legal advice back in April. She'd said it was just a consultation after her friend Dottie's daughter went through a rough separation. I hadn't thought much of it. But now it looked like she'd gotten real close to her legal counsel. Still, I needed proof. Not gossip. Not gut instinct. Proof. So I went looking where no man wants to look. Her phone. I waited until she left it charging in the kitchen while showering. Boone gave me a skeptical look from the rug. I just patted his head and said, "Don't worry, boy. This ain't for fun." She had a lock on it, 6-digit passcode. I tried the obvious. Our anniversary, the kids' birthdays. Nothing worked. But then I remembered something odd. Back in March, she bought a new hummingbird feeder and joked. I picked it out on 032165. First day of spring the year I was born. I punched in 032165. Unlocked. I didn't find messages under Michael. But I did find someone saved as April F. No photo, just the default gray silhouette. I opened it. And there they were. Texts. Photos. Everything. Wish I could have stayed last night. Still thinking about your laugh. Sheets still smell like you. Hope they do next weekend too. Winky face. He's so oblivious. It's almost sad. That last one made something twist in my stomach. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just a coldness. Like I'd stepped outside into a frozen morning without a coat. I scrolled further. Photos of them on a picnic blanket in that same yard I'd followed her to. A blurry selfie of him shirtless in our guest bathroom. I recognized the wallpaper. A note she'd taken of his work schedule, marked with little hearts. I copied everything. Airdropped it to my laptop. Made a folder. Labeled it Anniversary Scrapbook. Then I did what any good tech would do. I documented everything. Date stamps. Locations. Even metadata from the photos to show they were taken inside our house. This wasn't just infidelity. This was invasion. I kept it quiet for 2 more weeks. Let her think she was clever. She was even sweeter than usual, baking again, asking if I wanted to go to a movie sometime. Like she was trying to keep the plates spinning a little longer. I played along. Smiled. Talked about retirement accounts. About maybe repainting the fence. All the while, I was organizing the photos into a slideshow. Found the perfect song too. Some soft instrumental piano thing that sounded sentimental enough to fool anyone for the first few seconds. That was the key. Make it look like a real tribute. Then turn the knife. I even let her plan the guest list. Just family and a few close friends, she said. Perfect, I replied. You're not mad I'm handling all the details? Not at all. Because this time, the details mattered. I printed one hard copy of the slideshow, just in case, and burned the digital version to a USB drive. Labeled it Memories. Tucked it in the drawer with the party supplies. And every time I looked at Boone lying by the back door, ears twitching like he could still smell the man who didn't belong here, I felt a little more certain. A little more ready. Because old dogs? They don't bark for no reason. The day of our 28th wedding anniversary dawned clear and warm. The kind of day that makes the grass smell sweet and makes people nostalgic. Linda woke up humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like we were newlyweds again. She wore her old blue apron with the fraying straps and called me handsome when I came downstairs, still in my robe. She kissed my cheek and handed me coffee. I smiled and thanked her. She didn't notice the stillness in my eyes, or the way Boone, lying by the table, didn't even lift his head when she passed by. He just watched her walk back toward the hallway like she was something foreign. We always said dogs could sense storms. Turned out, he smelled one brewing long before I did. The guests were set to arrive at 2 o'clock. Linda spent the morning preparing sandwiches and fruit trays, fussing over tablecloths, fluffing the throw pillows on the porch like it mattered. I went about setting up the folding tables and chairs outside, loading a speaker with old soft rock and jazz, wiping down the patio furniture. The slideshow, my surprise, was stored on a small flash drive in my front shirt pocket. I could feel the weight of it all day, not just the plastic and metal. The truth of it, waiting to be seen. We didn't have a huge crowd, maybe 20 people total. Our kids couldn't make it. Daniel's stationed in Texas and Lara's in Portland working her tail off. Linda had pretended to be disappointed, but I knew she preferred it that way. Fewer eyes, fewer complications. Her sister Patty came with her second husband, Don, the retired accountant who couldn't eat gluten. Gail from church showed up too, with a big yellow bundt cake and gossip about the new organist. And then there were our old neighbors, a few couples from my Air Force days, and 2 teachers Linda used to work with. Everyone brought cards. Everyone brought smiles. Linda beamed like it was her birthday. We made our rounds, thanked everyone for coming, chatted about lawn fertilizer, hip replacements, and grandkids. The usual suspects. Linda made a toast. To 28 years of love, loyalty, and laughter, she said, raising her lemonade. Folks clapped. She winked at me. I raised my glass and smiled back. The music played. The sun dipped behind a patch of clouds just enough to cool the air. Then, around 3:30, I tapped a spoon on my glass and stood up. Thank y'all for coming, I said. Before we dive into the cake, I have something I'd like to share. Linda perked up, genuinely surprised. Oh, I know I'm not the sentimental type, I continued. But 28 years is worth a few memories, don't you think? Everyone smiled and nodded. I pulled out the flash drive and walked over to the TV we'd set up on the patio table. Linda had planned to use it to show a reel of baby photos. Just a little scrapbook, I said, plugging it in. Thought I'd do something nice. Linda looked proud. Until the screen lit up. It started sweet. Photos of our wedding. Her in that simple white dress, me in my old blues. Pictures of our first house, holding baby Daniel, camping trips, Christmas mornings. People cooed and chuckled. Then the screen went black for a second. The next photo showed her kissing someone who wasn't me. A grainy phone shot. Dim lighting. But it was her. No mistaking it. Gasps. One man choked on a piece of melon. Linda froze. The next slide. Her walking into a house I'd marked with a date and time in the corner. Clear as day. Middle of the afternoon. Slide after slide. Her smiling, leaning against a man in a navy polo. The same man shaving in our guest bathroom mirror. The same man whose aftershave still lingered on our sheets. Michael Lowell, I said quietly, addressing the crowd. In case you're wondering. Silence fell like a curtain. My voice stayed calm. Measured. He's her attorney. And apparently more than that. Linda finally found her voice. Frank, what the hell is this? Her tone cracked. I turned to her. It's a gift. Our anniversary scrapbook. The final slide came up. A photo taken just the day before. Michael's black Lexus on the back of a tow truck, pulling away from our curb. Turns out he had unpaid tickets and an expired registration. My old buddy Jim works for the DMV now. He made sure the paperwork didn't get lost. Another beat. Then, slowly, I turned back to the guests. I'm sorry y'all had to see this. But I figured if she was going to parade him through my house, my life, and my bed, she ought to be honest about it. Linda's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Patty dropped her fork. Don sat stiff as a corpse. One of the teachers let out a nervous laugh and instantly regretted it. Gail whispered, "Oh my Lord." And through it all, Boone stood at the sliding door, watching with those old, knowing eyes. He didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared, like he'd known all along. Linda turned on me, finally breaking. You've lost your mind, Frank. This is cruel. I raised an eyebrow. No, I said. Cruel would have been dragging this out. Letting you keep lying. Cruel would have been filing papers behind your back like you did with that man. But I'm not cruel. I'm just tired. The guests started clearing out. Quiet goodbyes. Awkward glances. No one touched the bundt cake. Patty tried to put a hand on Linda's shoulder, but Linda swatted it away. Everyone left. And when the door finally shut, the silence returned. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. She stood in the kitchen, shaking. I walked past her and set the remote on the counter. I'll be gone by the morning, I said. I'll stay at Daniel's until the paperwork clears. I won't fight you. But I won't protect your secrets anymore, either. You planned this? I prepared, I corrected. There's a difference. She slumped into a chair and said nothing. Because really? There was nothing left to say. Later that night, Boone climbed onto the foot of the bed for the first time in months. Didn't hesitate. Didn't sniff the air. Just curled up near my feet like old times. And I slept like a man who'd finally put the tools away. I left the house at sunrise the next morning. Didn't pack much. A duffel bag with 3 changes of clothes, my shaving kit, and Boone in the passenger seat, his head out the window like he hadn't felt the air in years. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. Just turned the key in the lock one last time and drove. Daniel welcomed me without questions. He had a 2-bedroom house near San Antonio where he lived with his wife and their twin boys. The moment I stepped inside, I could smell pancakes and Play-Doh, hear cartoons humming faintly in the background. It wasn't peace, but it was honest. I stayed in the guest room. Boone curled up at the foot of the bed just like before. For the first time in months, he didn't growl when I opened the closet door. Daniel didn't ask about Linda right away. He knew better. But on the second night, over grilled burgers and iced tea, he finally said it. You gonna tell me what happened? I took a long sip. Then I told him everything. When I was done, he just sat back in his chair, quiet for a long while. His wife, Jenna, sat on the porch steps a few feet away, pretending to play on her phone. Even she looked like she wanted to cry. I don't even know what to say, Daniel muttered. You don't have to, I said. Wasn't your mess. He shook his head slowly. Still, that's messed up, Dad. I mean, Michael Lowell? The divorce lawyer? That's the one. You know I've heard of him, right? I looked up. What do you mean? Daniel scratched the back of his neck. One of my buddies, Travis, from base, his sister went through a nasty divorce a few years back. Said her lawyer pushed her to get dirt on her husband. Turned out he was the one sleeping with her the whole time. Got her half the guy's pension, then dropped her 3 months later. I sat forward in my chair. You sure it was him? Daniel nodded. Positive. She even filed a complaint. But nothing ever came of it. I didn't say anything at first. But my stomach turned. Because this wasn't just about Linda anymore. This guy, this Michael, had a pattern. Sleeping with his clients. Whispering in their ears. Coaching them to bleed their husbands dry while playing therapist in bed. I opened my phone and searched his name. Sure enough, I found 2 other mentions, online forums, both vague but both pointed. My friend's wife left him for her lawyer. He'd helped her draft the papers before they even separated. Same story here. It's always Michael. Always the good guy at first. So I called an old friend. His name's Rick Holt. We served together in Okinawa in the early 90s. These days, he works private security and sometimes digs up background info for law firms. We talk maybe once a year, usually around Veterans Day. I dialed him up. He answered on the second ring. Haven't heard from you in a long while, Frank. Everything okay? Not really, I said. You still got access to court filings? Depends on what you're looking for. Michael Lowell, divorce attorney, San Antonio area. I gave him the address. What little I knew. He whistled low. You want full background? No, just civil complaints. Lawsuits. Anything dirty that's been scrubbed. He didn't hesitate. Give me 2 days. While I waited, I helped Daniel around the house. Replaced a warped fence panel, fixed a broken ceiling fan, took the twins to the park. I was quiet, but not bitter. Mostly just tired. Boone seemed better too. Slept soundly, wagged more. Every time I scratched behind his ears, he gave me that old look. Like he was saying, told you. And maybe he had. 2 days later, Rick called. Found what you were hoping for, he said. Lay it on me. 3 official complaints in the last 6 years. All female clients. 2 said he blurred lines during their divorces. 1 outright accused him of coercion. All dropped before court. Settled privately, most likely. I nodded slowly. Anything more? One nasty surprise, Rick said. About 5 years ago, Michael was sued by another attorney for professional misconduct. Something about forging financial affidavits to favor the client. That one got sealed. But guess who the presiding judge was? I stayed silent. Judge Valerie Kerrigan. I blinked. Linda's old friend. Rick chuckled. Bingo. Small town, huh? So let me get this straight, I thought. Michael's sleeping with his clients. He's coaching them on how to screw over their husbands, sometimes literally. He's done it before. He's settled before. And now he's shacked up with my wife, thinking no one would ever pull back the curtain. I thanked Rick and hung up. Then I sat there in the living room, Boone's head resting on my foot, and let it all sink in. This wasn't just betrayal. This was practice. And Linda? She wasn't special. She was just next. That night, I wrote an email to a law firm I'd never used before. One with a reputation for being aggressive and expensive. I attached everything. The screenshots, the photos, the metadata, the background Rick had dug up, even the sealed case details. Subject line, conflict of interest, Michael Lowell. I hit send, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted the truth to echo loudly. Linda called me the next day. First time since the party. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. Frank, I know you hate me. I get it. But I think he's been lying to me too. I need to talk to you. Please. I deleted the message. Because she wasn't calling for forgiveness. She was calling because the foundation had cracked, and all her weight was still on it. Boone and I sat on the porch that night. I gave him a piece of beef jerky, and he wagged his tail like old times. The sky stretched wide above us. Quiet. Still. But not empty. Just waiting for the next thing. 3 days passed before Linda showed up. I knew she would. The voicemail she left said she needed to talk, but it was the second call that made me pause. Not because of what she said, but how she said it. Her voice had changed. No longer firm. No longer angry. Just hollow. Frank, she said, I think he's gone. She didn't mean me. She showed up at Daniel's house mid-afternoon on a Wednesday, hair tied back like she didn't have the energy to bother with makeup or curling irons. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not in size, just presence. Like she'd stepped out of her own skin and didn't know how to get back in. I didn't invite her in. We sat on the porch. Daniel stayed inside with the twins, bless him. Boone lay next to me, eyes half closed, but the tip of his tail wagged once when he caught her scent, not in a friendly way. More like a warning. She didn't try to pet him. Smart. She opened with silence. That old trick. Let me ask the first question. I didn't. Instead, I leaned back in the chair and waited. Eventually, she caved. He won't answer, she said. I didn't react. She rubbed her arms, even though it was warm. I went by his house. It's empty. All his things gone. Even his toothbrush. I sipped my iced tea. She kept going. There's no record of him at the firm anymore. They said he resigned yesterday. No forwarding address. Still, I said nothing. Because what could I say? I told you so. That would have been too easy. Too human. And I wasn't about to waste my breath reminding her of something the silence was already screaming. He lied to me, she finally whispered. I turned to her, slow and steady. No. He told you exactly what you wanted to hear. That's different. She looked like she wanted to cry, but nothing came out. Tears without water. I'd seen that before. In the service, after long deployments when something had broken but hadn't snapped all the way. I thought he loved me, she said. I let that sit. Then I spoke, soft and quiet. You thought he was your parachute. But he was just the man packing the bag. She went quiet again, and I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on her. Her affair had collapsed. Her lover had ghosted. The very attorney who told her he could make everything clean and simple had vanished without a trace. Right after I made sure his past was no longer a secret. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just sat with it. Because there's a strange kind of justice that comes without fireworks. It's colder, quieter, and it cuts deeper. I was going to file, you know, she muttered. Michael said he'd already drafted everything. Said he had a plan to protect me. That you'd make it messy otherwise. I turned my head, finally locking eyes with her. I was going to let it be clean, I said. I was even going to walk away without a fight. But now, her lip trembled. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. You can file if you want, but you'll do it without him. And when the judge asks why your attorney disappeared mid-case, you'll have to explain that too. She looked down. No response. Only the steady hum of cicadas in the trees and Boone shifting slightly at my feet. Then she said something I didn't expect. He lied to you too. I raised an eyebrow. She didn't flinch. Michael wasn't just my lawyer. He was yours. I blinked. Excuse me. She swallowed. You remember last April? That weird letter from a property services firm that said our backyard fence was encroaching on a neighbor's land? That turned out to be fake. I nodded slowly. I did remember that. She kept going. Michael drafted that. He used a shell company to try and trigger a civil dispute, so I'd have leverage when we divided the house. It was a setup. My jaw clenched. So he was planting the case before the affair even started? She nodded. I didn't know it at the time, she said. But later, he admitted it. Said he'd done it before. Always worked like a charm. I sat back, stunned. And that's when it hit me. This man didn't just seduce wives. He engineered divorces. He used the law as a crowbar, pried people open, and took what he wanted. And I'd nearly been his next blueprint. I stood up. Didn't say a word. Boone got up too, sensing the shift in me. Linda stood as well, slowly, hands clutching each other like a child waiting for punishment. I'm sorry, Frank. I stared at her. Really stared. Not with hatred, but with recognition of who she'd become and who she never was. You were lonely, I said. I get that. But instead of asking for help, you looked for an exit. And when you found one, you didn't care what it cost. She nodded. One tear finally rolled down her cheek. I turned to go. She whispered behind me. Do you hate me? I paused, then said, over my shoulder. No. I remember you. That's worse. That night, Daniel and I sat in the garage drinking cheap beer while the twins watched cartoons. Guess she got what she deserved, he said. I shook my head. Nobody ever really gets what they deserve, I muttered. That's the problem. Boone dozed in the corner. My phone buzzed once, an email from the new law firm, confirming they'd filed my paperwork. I'd asked for nothing but the house and full ownership of Boone. In the end, I didn't care about the money, or the furniture, or the years. What mattered was truth, and silence, and the old dog beside me who'd known long before I did that something was wrong in the house we called home. The papers came in the mail on a Tuesday. I was sitting on the back porch of Daniel's house, Boone at my feet, a bowl of leftover stew in my lap, when the envelope arrived. Plain Manila. Return address from the courthouse. No drama. No surprises. Inside was a stamped divorce decree, finalized and clean. It was done. 28 years, reduced to 7 pages and 1 signature. Linda didn't contest anything. Not the house. Not the dog. Not even the timing. She signed quietly, and that was that. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't sad. Of course I was. But sadness had long since baked itself into something quieter, a kind of mourning that doesn't ask to be felt loudly. Just noticed. Like fog you don't see until you're already inside it. Boone and I moved back home that weekend. The house felt different. Still smelled the same. Faintly of old carpet and lemon cleaner, but the air had shifted. Quieter now. Less like a battlefield, more like a bunker that had seen its last war. I didn't unpack right away. Just sat in my chair in the living room with Boone lying beside me, my boots still on, watching the shadows from the ceiling fan dance along the wall. It wasn't peace, but it was mine. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Postmarked from Austin. I almost threw it away. Almost. But something about the tilt of the handwriting, that slight lean to the left, the careful loops in the G, caught my eye. I opened it. Inside was a single page. The paper was thick, expensive, watermarked. It smelled faintly of aftershave and legal pads. It read, Frank, you win. That's not sarcasm. I underestimated you. That's on me. You were quiet, too quiet. Guys like me assume quiet means weak, passive. But you? You were just waiting, watching. That scrapbook? That was brutal. Tactical. Military precision. I don't usually write letters like this. Usually I just disappear. But something about this one stuck with me. Maybe because I know I went too far. Maybe because for once, I wasn't sure I was the smartest guy in the room. Your wife wasn't the first. You probably figured that out. She won't be the last. But something tells me she regrets it more than most. I'm not coming back. Don't worry. I've got new cities to burn. But just for the record, if I had been you, I wouldn't have waited. I'd have broken something. Or someone. Which is why I lost. I read the letter twice. Then set it on the table. Boone sat across from me, his head tilted like he was reading it too. You believe this guy? I muttered. Boone didn't answer, of course. But the silence felt like agreement. I didn't tell anyone about the letter. Not Daniel. Not my lawyer. Not even Rick. Some things don't need follow-ups. Some endings are better without echoes. I slid the page into the same folder I'd used for the divorce. Not out of sentimentality, just for the record. I labeled it loose ends. Then I closed the drawer and locked it. That Sunday, I went back to church. I sat in the second pew from the back, like always. Some folks nodded when they saw me. Some didn't. Gail gave me an awkward half-hug and whispered, "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." I just smiled. After the service, I stood by the coffee urn and watched the stained glass windows catch the late morning sun. Boone waited patiently in the truck. The preacher spoke about forgiveness. I thought about that word a lot that week. Not because I wanted to give it, but because I wondered if I'd recognize it when it finally came. That afternoon, I took Boone to the field behind the house. Let him off the leash for the first time in a while. He ran like a dog 10 years younger, chasing smells, digging in the dirt, rolling in grass like it had been waiting just for him. I sat on the edge of the old tractor tire and watched him. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because there were no more shoes. No more letters. No more lies. Just me, Boone, and the sound of wind in the tall grass. Linda called once more. Blocked number. I let it ring. Whatever she had to say, I didn't need it. Because the truth is, when someone tells you who they are, you believe them. And when the dog won't go into the bedroom anymore, you listen. Yindi. Subscribe to the channel